Hello. Another Monday by Momoi. Everything as per usual. The alarm began its ruthless ringing at 7 in the morning, down to the millisecond. His hangover was small thanks to yesterday's drinking session being fortunately composed of cheap beverage oh, with a muffled groan. He slammed his fist down on the innocent device, bringing it down to the floor, ending its cacophony once and for all. It was odd how today's alarm was ringing since normally it would beep. Meh, the damn thing must have been gotten some stupid update overnight, something got its setting messed up. With his arm back on his by his side, Andy turned his body by 90 degrees and hung his legs off the bed edge after a slow raise, and sat there and pondering why his feet not touching the floor. Not only that, he couldn't open his fists either. He didn't get that slam yesterday, did he? Surely one six-pack couldn't damage his nerves, could it? No, that was ridiculous. His limbs most simply still asleep, just as lazy as their own master, he thought. He crawled out of the bed, stood on four legs, which somehow was more comfortable than he remembered from childhood. It was so long ago since he played pretend as a 9-year-old. He made his way through the bathroom, not minding his new ways of moving around. The water felt lukewarm, just like most of his morning. It was fitting. Some shampoo, one brushing of his teeth, a quick towel to to his behind, and he was off towards the kitchen. The floor cracked. The floor cranked under him as he walked. Truth be told, he didn't recall having this wooden cabin. It was strange. Had had more space, felt alive, and actually, it's it's actually nice. It was nice. Let's not look. Let's not give. Let's not look a given horse in the mouth. Another bonus. Somehow having stacked up cabinets of mostly vegetable-friendly products. Well, he didn't feel like he didn't feel every carnivorous today either. Either way. His hoof began to rhythmically hitting the cobble path that was leading him to the station. His only method of getting to work either ever since he failed his driving test for the 11th time. He never had good enough reaction for time for something so complicated. It was so it was also a bit scary to drive around in a big metal that can kill both him and the other and one random person at the moment notice. He preferred public transportation. Even it was due to Stockholm's at that point. Ah, right. He did have hooves. Now, huh? Still on all four legs, a little bit of his muzzle intruding his field of vision, just like his nose previously would. He thought of it possibly of all being some sort of hallucination due to overdose, a severe mental illness breakdown, or even a vivid or lucid dream from being in a coma. Did any of that matter though? He didn't think so, and neither did any other pony he passed by on his way. He sat himself in one of the cart at the back. The seats were large and comfy, perfect for his supposed new body, as just now he can strip out his saddlebag. An elderly pony, wearing a blue and white vest, came up to him, a small stampler like device in his hoof. The stallion cleared his throat. Reed adjusts. Reed, what? Readjusted? Readjusted his little pocket watch with a simple smile. "Ticket, my good stallion?" he questioned Andy. Opening his right bag, Andy pulled out a fancy ticket coated in a silver, a far-off date, and engraved on the bottom. "Ah, the yearly passing. All right." The inspector hid this contraption, putting his pocket twice, patting his pocket twice. "Say, I've never seen your faces around here. Not that it's odd, but our town rarely gets a new resident. Just wondering if—" "Guess so," came Andy quietly replied. I figured it all I figured out later on the weekend, perhaps if times allow. You younglings and your drive to productivity. Ho ho ho. Ignore that, laughed the elderly stallion. Well then, off I go. Watching the inspector walk off freed Andy of the only thing he needed to do on the train. Resting his head on the rail behind him, he cut himself a quick nap for the good of the road. For the rest of the road. The streets of Manhattan were busier than usual today. To be perfectly fair, he really didn't know if they were, since firstly, he never been to Manhattan, and secondly, he called it Manhattan because that's what the station said. He could have sworn it was Manhattan. But considering all the equines around him, the puny made sense. Normally, Andy lived in Europe, so it didn't make any sense why he was suddenly in an alternate universe of what he assumed was US, but hey, perhaps wages were better. With a slight, more optimistic tone, he bumped into a pony on the sidewalk, even out of his happiness. Not that there wasn't much to begin with. "Hey, what's it, you dummy?" The mare snared at him irritated. Every possible comeback that Andy had ready was just for a situation like that died in his throat, obliterated by a how? Oh, hold on. Docile. Her insult was, "Dummy?" That was surprisingly childish in the sense that sounds like the biggest insult a 4-year-old could ever come up with. "What? Can't catch your tongue? What are you staring at?" "My bad. Difficult morning," Andy replied, sounding confused at just how non-threatening she sounded. "If that's so, move it. Let's forget about it." The mare ground underneath her breath. She passed him, but shouted before disappearing behind the corner, "And get some rest." Utterly bewildered, Andy resumed to his trot towards the front of both his perpetrator and caregiver. Your average retail store, on hoof. Weird name, but anyways. Hey, when you live in Ponyville and Equestria, weird names come up with surprisingly make sense. I don't know. Okay, the name was awful. Not that he was about to voice his complaint. The original store name made him dislike Ladybug, And according to physiology, even something so small as a name change in can break your negative routine. He stepped through the none so automatic doors and quickened his pace towards the back room. Oh, there's some additional help? A mere dressed in a corporate attire under her full attention to him. Glad you have aboard. You'll be of a great help to morning chef over here. Hold on, hold on. Ugh. I hate everything. Anyways, there was I. Andy looked at the other pony the mayor was pointing out and nodded, which to which he resumed morning shift. Returned the gesture. I'm sorry, what was your name again? The manager mayor intrigued with a cheap smile. The higher ups never care for their names, he thought. Adjusting the name tag on his uniform, he read it. He read what it was said out loud. Early eye, apparently, ma'am. Apparently? She questioned. Andy, or Early Eye, as he was even called in the world, he just shrugged. Okay. Anyways, I'm having a meeting in 10 minutes, so I'll leave you to it. She gave them a good luck. She gave them a good. She gave them a both a good luck out there. Oh, good luck out there. Smiled and laughed. With that, Andy, or whatever he was called, was left with morning shift to ponder who would be the first to manage this jungle composed of cheap bread, moldy cheese, spoiled milk, and bootleg toys. And the oddities kept piling on for Randy, starting from the most easy to get their naming convention back on Earth. Most names, while sounding nothing like something you use in a sentence, still held meaning. Here, though, their names was more often than just two random picked nouns that somehow depicted, or not depicted, I'm just kidding, depicted their course of living. For example, morning shift had apparently always worked during the morning shift. Early morning, never even considered taking task during the late hours. As for Ren himself, now he was named Early Eye. The early part was he thought was a cruel twist of irony, laughing of his choice, of course, of career. He never he was never a gifted scholar and actually preferred physical work, but still, the joke wasn't that funny. Now the eye part, however, he could not solve. There was nothing special about his eyes, never had an eye for details and or shot some incredible goals during his primary school's PE lesson. After a while, Andy gave up trying to find a solution, thinking to himself that he had already wasted too much time on something that had no real correlation on his current puzzle. Side note, if you guys really hear my sick voice thingy majiggy, is really because I'm really sick like that. Yeah. Hold on. Speaking of which, what was the new? Speaking of which, that was a whole new can of worms. He knew working in Aretha wasn't pleasant no matter which country you did it with. In his home, that piece of stinking back room swamp of a country, ah, was one of the worst offenders. It almost like an unfold tradition that as citizen you had to keep your frustration and problem to yourself and put on a brave front as to not You seem weak to others. In reality, no one really scolded you for it, but equally, no one wanted to show their soft side since everyone was being so tough. Thought. Tough, I don't know. It was an endless and utterly miserable cycle. The result, when a person blew up, it was like a damn nuke. Here in Equestria, he learned from morning ship ponies were utterly and happily positive, even at their darkest hour. Ha, sound like a paradise. Anyways, not really for me though. During his first hour restocking shelf, a customer bumped into him and got a cold shower of 3% milk. What did they do? They were mad, which was reasonable reaction, but they were just angrily apologize and used to use a nearby stack of tissues to wipe it off, promising to add it on their cart at the end, which they did. Andy had worked in those godforsaken stores for half a decade and he never experienced anything remotely close to this. He could go on how many strange and seemingly weird behavior these ponies were prone to, but then again, he was only 10 minutes from ending his shift. So there was no point in clogging his mind. There was, however, a thing so bizarre, thing so bizarre he couldn't wrap his head around at this very moment. Money, or lack thereof, or rather the lack of his previous funds, seeing this world, something like electricity wasn't invented yet, or at least didn't develop to the same level as it did on Earth. Every pony that bought something usually use actual gold coins to pay for it. Both these facts pointed out to the conclusion that something like bank accounts did not exist back here in the same way they did back home. There was there were was save Andy saving being stored. That's right, in this damn bank account. Essentially, all his money hoofed out of existence, if even existed here to begin with. Was that a worried thought? Obviously. Did it cause him to nearly suffer a panic attack? Very, very likely. Did it solve show itself for a few minutes afterwards? Trained, but unfortunately, yes. The manager, Ladder Star, this name will be the death of him, showed up on his break as soon as she heard that he has a freak out of sort. After understanding the basis of it, Andy was essentially without his bits to name him to his name to this world's currency. Oh yes, in the pony world, bits, also gold, is considered a currency at this moment. Even though, yes, it is strange. Yes, I know. She reassured him that they are paid daily for their work. If there was ever a moment that where Andy could say he experienced a spiritual rebirth, then this was it. Hold on. Being paid daily or instant monthly seemed strange until he saw the account he was given and it calculated based on the store's prices how much he had on hand now on hoof. I don't know, basically. In this 8 hour shift, he had earned than a full damn week with extra hours taken in consideration back on Earth. What in the actual I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna cuss. The sun was shining with its orange glow the moment for hiding behind the rocky hills in the distance. The passenger voice filled the air of the cart Andy was stationed in. Why did he pick a cart with the other creatures on it? Who'd say? Who could say? The day just made him do so without much thought. He was simply in a positive mood. The usual tiredness, the utter pessimism, and a dire need for alcohol drinks that he felt at the end of the day, every were gone from his system, replaced by admiration by the world around him. Andy was, all things considered, content. The train came to a stop. His home of Ponyville greeted him with a simplistic yet oddly charming look. They were kind. They were kinds of. They were kind of reminded him of but of what country he used to look like in the history books during its early uh, development stages. All that was missing was a giant wooden wall and a woke and a moat. He thought. Opening the door, he was greeted with a comfy living room, a fireplace ready for some cuddling, candling, kindling one, and what was left of his morning cereal. He took off his uniform, on, put on some tea in a kettle, which he struggled with for 5 minutes, fluckled his rear on a calf. Today was a good day, he thought to himself with a smile making its way to a unique nozzle. This whole thing may this whole thing may just be the heck of a dream, but even so, he didn't mind. Some things were here different. Most stayed the same at the end of the day. At the end of it, it all seemed just much as better. He forgot how it was feel. He was fulfilled from simply doing his job, from contributing to society. If this dream was to end to the beginning, if this dream were to end how it began, with a ring of his alarm clock, then he would enjoy the last hours in a beautiful little dreamscape to the fullest. Maybe, just maybe, for one day, Andy could be happy with just living. Wouldn't that be a dream come true? Now, there's a note here. So, my question for you all is that, are you all enjoying life? As it is, even though life gets tough, life gets you down, life gets whatever. But are you really happy? Are you contented with what you have? Or are you simply just marry it all just for the heck of it? You know? Remember, no matter what life gives you, no matter how depressed you get, there's always a turnaround in your life. You know? Hope you enjoy it and have a good day. Bye bye.